The Stalker 2 situation is maybe one of the strangest situations we've seen this year in regards to new games. I actually got a code early. I just didn't have time to play it with everything we've been doing with Black Ops 6. But a lot of people have, and needless to say, I think the response to it is very split. People calling it a masterpiece, people calling it an absolute disaster, people calling it completely bug-ridden and unplayable. It is all over the place. Unlike previous games that we've seen this year, Suicide Squad comes to mind. There's many, many others that came out this year that came out and people were just like, yeah, this isn't it. This is a bad, bad game. This one's kind of split. So Big Fry's got a video here. We've watched him many times before. And I want to hear what he has to say about it. And all he says in his title is, I've been playing Stalker 2 early. So
I was one of the lucky few content creators who were chosen by the developers to
let's go 1440. Let's go. Let's make this look good.
Content creators who were chosen by the developers to receive an early copy of Stalker 2.
What's with the bubble?
And I'll admit, it caught me a little bit off guard. You see, in the eyes of the Stalker community, I'm what you would call a tourist.
Yeah.
I've never wandered the twisted paths of the original game.
That would be what I would be considered as well.
Or braved the depths of the zone for hours on end. My experience is limited to briefly dipping my toes into Stalker Anomaly about a year ago, and even then, I barely scratched the surface of what the franchise and the games have to offer. So for me,
by the way, I will say, like, the entire atmosphere and feel of this game is probably one of the coolest in all of video games. I have to say that.
Stalker 2 represented something different, a fresh start. A gateway into the zone's mysteries, rebuilt with modern mechanics and
That's
a
cool.
shiny new engine to pull me into its desolate embrace. With that in mind, I'm not here to compare the game to the classics. I can't tell you whether this or that feature is a shadow of its former self.
This is the exact type of video that I need.
I also won't be excusing problems with the usual refrain of, that's just what Stalker is.
Perfect.
Because the truth is, there are some issues with the game.
Okay, if you've seen any of the bugs in this game, they are goddamn hilarious. And I hope he has a ton of them in here.
This must be one of those anomalies I've heard so much about.
He's got a
but
scratch.
Here's the thing, despite those
I wanna
flaws,
itch it.
Stalker 2 is shaping up to be one of my favorite games of the year. And no,
Wow.
given the state of the Game of the Year nominees, that might not sound like high praise. For FPS fans, this year has been, let's just say, a little bit lacking in that
I agree.
department. But make no mistake, this game, it's a breath of fresh, irradiated air.
So
even if
this is what I mean when I say that it is so torn, like those bugs, like that's the tip of the iceberg. But also there's audio bugs, so people will sound like they are in a position that they're not. There's a lot of bugs, and I hope he goes into
parts
that,
of it
but
feel a little dated. My name is Big Fry, and these are my unfiltered thoughts on Stalker 2. From the very first moments I stepped into this world, I could feel it. The unmistakable pull of something special.
also he hasn't mentioned this, but this game was developed in the Ukraine during the war. And yeah, some of the studio relocated, but a lot of them stayed there and developed it. So a lot of people are giving them a little bit of leeway because of that with all the bugs and stuff. But a game's a game, right?
Opening cutscenes laid the groundwork, drawing me into the zone like a moth to a flame. Darkness surrounded me, the jagged streaks of lightning cracking against a distant horizon, the wind howling through unseen.
How did none of them
cracks and
react to that
hollows.
lightning hitting?
It was oppressive,
Like no one
it was
moved.
eerie, and it was captivating. Powered by Unreal Engine 5, the zone felt alive in ways I hadn't expected. The textures of decay, the glow of the anomalies lurking in the periphery, the visceral chaos of the storm, it was all there. And in those tense few moments in the intro of the game, I actually felt a sigh of relief. After all of the anticipation, all of the waiting and the wondering, I was finally here. I was finally playing Stalker 2. And for those first few hours, one thought kept repeating in my head, man, the Stalker community is going to lose their goddamn minds. The zone doesn't hold your hand.
I hope he talks about
you into
what
its harsh,
everyone
unpredictable
said
rhythm
so far
and
about the
expects
game.
you to adapt. Along the way, I encountered a cast of characters that didn't just fill the space like other RPGs we've seen recently. They drew me deeper into the mysteries, offering me quests and choices that felt more impactful than a lot of other games that I've played.
That's good.
We had main quests, side quests, faction conflicts. Each thread was layered, kind of interconnected, and brimming with consequence. Decisions had weight here. I wasn't just a spectator in someone else's story.
Animations
I was
look
a
super buggy.
participant. And it's been a long time since a game gave me that sense of agency.
But the
Not since
atmosphere
Baldur's
is
Gate
just
3,
nailed.
I'd say I felt so immersed in a ripple effect happening because of my choices. I want to avoid spoilers, but one character you're tasked with finding and escorting for one group, but for another, you need to find an item on their person and bring it back to the faction. It was clear from the jump
either kill them
that
or
I had to make a decision.
save them.
I tracked the guy to an abandoned farmhouse, moved carefully through a ton of traps, and I eventually decided to kill them. Not because of who they were as a person, I actually liked their character, but because of who was handing me the task
The
and what they can
animations.
provide for other quests. Even in this linear quest, it felt so freeing and open to be able to make that call with no game over screen. No text telling me that I made the wrong call and I had to restart.
Honestly, I think one thing that people are excited about with the Stalker game, there really is no good open world first person RPGs. Like I can't think of one. Like this is it.
And although the idea of like free roaming
Try to name like a
quest
good one, like an
decisions
actual
isn't
good one, like not Ghost
revolutionary,
Recon
it's
or any
done
crap
so
like
well
that, or
here
Far
that
Cry.
I actually just enjoy playing it. It reminds me of the first time I played Fallout 3.
Ooh,
When you went to Megaton,
that's high
and you could
praise.
just choose to either blow up the city or not. And you have those decisions and the game just goes on whether those decisions are made or not. It felt so awesome. Just being a stalker within this world, doing things that you think are right for you. The atmosphere of the game is just incredible. I mentioned
Yeah, that's what
Unreal
I was
Engine
saying. The
5,
best
and,
part
like,
is
I don't think YouTube compression and rendering this video in DaVinci Resolve is going to do this game justice.
That's one of the biggest problems with YouTube videos I find is that you put these like amazing things up and you look at them on YouTube and you're like, oh, that's not what it
the
looks
game
like.
is gorgeous with reflections on puddles, insane lighting
Like, I
from
guarantee you,
interiors
when
with
you played this, it's
dingy
not this
hallways
dark. Like, it
illuminated
looks
by
better.
a single light at the end, to lightning storms that rage outside, to just being alone in the forest with your headlamp. It's incredible both from an audio and a visual perspective. At least most of the time. One of the major issues that I ran into playing this game early is the fact that my gun audio just cuts out and
A lot of
I
audio
can't hear
issues.
myself shoot. Nor does sometimes the enemies can't hear it shoot, which is strange. So it's not like it's an actual just like audio playing bug. Sometimes it actually feels like the audios from the guns just disappear completely. This is one of the major cases of seeing this audio glitch in real
the
time.
door.
I'm sneaking up this stairwell. There's guys on the other end of this building that can hear me walk, apparently. They get notified, but then when I turn the corner, my gun has no audio.
Everyone stay put.
I take a guy out, and then his boys didn't even hear the gunfire. So they can hear me walking very, very slowly up a hall, but can't hear a loud gun go off. It's very
Show me more
strange.
shooting.
And this kind of stuff happens
Aw.
way more frequently than I'm sure the devs want it to. And I find that it happens more often than not when you throw grenades and there's a lot of noise going on and overlapping. Sometimes I notice it when I'm shooting in the middle of a huge storm. It's like there's too many audio cues happening at once that it just deletes my gun audio. Now, speaking of those storms, this is where the first major issue for me ran in and where I started to see the little chinks in the armor that is Stalker 2. You see, as breathtaking as the zone can be, it's a shame to say that the performance of Stalker 2 is as volatile as the anomaly.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing
first
about
time-
this game is I heard that you need like a top tier rig to even run this thing.
The
Like, I think I'd be
storm ripped
okay,
through the
but like
skies, I
maybe
was
not.
transfixed. The red skies, the raw power of the lightning, the flashes, the amount of debris flying
Look at the
around.
stamina just
it's a pure spectacle.
pouring down.
But that awe quickly faded as my frame rate plummeted into the abyss, dragging immersion down with it.
You're just
On
crushing
a rig
soda
like
here.
mine, I have an i9 12900K, an RTX 4080, and 64
Yeah.
gigs of RAM.
So I have
You'd
a very
think the
similar
zone would
PC, but I have a
bend to my
4090.
hardware as well. But when the storm hit, I was clawing my way through sub 20
Oh yeah, there you go.
FPS.
You see the frames
Whether
dropping.
with or without NVIDIA DLSS, the result was the same. Struggle.
Woo.
The irony of scraping for frames in a game about scraping for survival wasn't really lost on me there. Lowering settings from high to medium barely provided relief. One moment, the game ran smooth as silk. The next, it
I've heard this complaint a lot. Like this is not the first time I've heard that.
felt like I was wading through molasses. The zone is unforgiving, but this is something else entirely. It's clear this game is a hot mess of optimization. The storms may be a marvel to behold,
Great music
but
for
when your
background.
hardware gets brought to its knees, it's hard to appreciate the beauty. Now, the big caveat here is that the developers left us a message saying that throughout the week that we have with the early access of the game, they will be dropping patches to fix issues. And it's true, they dropped a 20 gigabyte update the second day I had access, and another 13 gigabyte patch a few days later.
So this has been coming like almost like a common thing for like the release of games. Like how many, like look at Black Ops 6. Game's been out, I think, a month. And what have we had? Like 7 updates, 7 major updates.
They've also assured us that a day 0 patch is coming and that most of the issues that we run into will be fixed. I'll say this though, I have to make this video based on my experience, day 0 patch or not, and I really hope the optimization is better at launch, but I really can't say that for certain, so this is kind of where we're at. If you can manage to sift through the tangled mess of optimization issues, what lies beneath is an extraordinary world. The zone breathes, hums, lurks with life, anomalies, twisting reality, NPCs navigating their own survival, and every corner is kind of steeped with that unmistakable passion of the creators at GSC. It's a world worth getting lost in if you can endure
rip
the
some guitar
turbulence. Now let's talk about gunplay. I have to admit, I was caught off guard. There's nothing inherently wrong with how the weapons handle.
He's about to die. This guy needs some help.
But I couldn't shake the feeling that my expectations had kind of led me astray. I came into this game bracing for something hardcore, something gritty, something punishing. But what I found instead was a system that, honestly, dare I say it, it kind of feels casual. Granted, I was playing on normal, and yes, the scavenger's life of hunting for ammo and meds is alive and well, but I never felt that kind of brutal scarcity or survivalist tension that I expected from a world as unforgiving as the zone. Packing magazines with bullets? Nowhere to be found. Movement systems that demand strategy.
So it's more casual than like other
aside from
kind of games. Like Tarkov is the one that comes to mind. I know it's different,
but Viper 5s from a tunnel of dead raiders. Honestly, there's really not much to write home about. On the scale of like a Tarkov to a Call of Duty, I wasn't expecting that meticulous, grindy weight of Tarkov, but I also didn't think that I would feel the needle tipping towards the casual end of the spectrum. Sprinting across long distances, swapping mags, maneuvering through the zone with relative ease, it felt surprising. Not bad, mind you, just not the grueling, sweat-soaked survival experience. I wonder what people will feel about that I built up in my mind. And that brings me to the AI. Oh boy.
This is the part.
Let's just rip the bandage off. The human AI, in my experience, was downright terrible. To preface this, because this is such an important thing to me, in our review guide for the game, under the AI section, we were told that the new A-Life 2.0 system, enemies don't know the exact location of the player at any moment of the combat. They're making assumptions of where he can be. That results in more complex decisions, assessing threats, prioritizing targets, and adapting to player strategies dynamically. Additionally, enemies react more naturally to the player's presence and actions, investigating noises, responding to visible threats, and communicating with each other, creating a more lifelike combat experience.
He's reading it word for word.
I know AI is one of the trickiest things to do in video games, but this whole section felt like a complete sham. A lot of the time, it does feel like stealth in this game isn't really stealthy. You could be sitting in complete darkness and AI will just be able to see you. Even without flashlights, they're just shooting in the darkness and hitting you.
No enemy in sight. At ease.
No enemy in sight. Okay. And that clip there is a prime example of not only sitting in shadows and having it not really affect their sight lines, but also something that happens so frequently throughout this game is that the AI's actions don't reflect in the voice lines that are being
I've heard
out.
that too.
Countless times I've heard AI say that they've lost track of me as they're leaning around a corner shooting at me down a hallway. There was one time, and I know it's in my recording, but I can't find it. There was an AI literally throwing a grenade at me as they're telling their leader that they can't find me. It was very strange, and it's one of those things where a lot of what goes into AI is almost like a psychological thing where you need to trick the player into thinking that they're smarter than they actually are. And this game doesn't do a good enough job, at least for me, in executing those things. Now, a day one patch might fix some of these things. This might be something that they're focusing on post-launch. I don't know.
Where's he getting shot
it's just
from?
Something that I took note
can't see that
and
guy.
After about the third engagement where I saw it within the first couple of hours, I was starting to think like, okay, this doesn't feel like what they're trying to sell us in terms of the review guidelines. When you're in tight corridors, the gunplay is definitely a lot better because there's really nowhere else for them to go but either back up, find cover, or go forward. When you're fighting AI in open areas, they definitely get a lot more weird.
Oh my god. Is he stuck on the car? Also, you can't hit him. I don't know if he's doing that on purpose.
What the fuck? You can literally see me predicting the shots of like where the AI is going to run to, but then he just stops like 180 turns,
genius.
goes this way, then goes back the other way. And this is how they all move when they're out in the wilderness. This is just the best clip that I had because I'm up above and I can actually see the full movement. When you're on the ground, sometimes it's tough to notice because there's foliage in the way, there's trees and
That's
stuff.
kind of hilarious.
You don't really get a good look at it. But this kind of experience when you're out in the wilderness, at least for me, has been par for the course, and it's not the greatest. And the thing about AI is a lot of it comes down to the feeling of smartness or the feeling of intelligence when it comes to them. Sometimes AI will do some boneheaded things, but if the player doesn't notice some of those boneheaded things, and maybe an AI ran a different route for whatever reason,
Shotgun
but it
seems
feels like they're
OP.
flanking, a lot of it comes down to that feel. So that immersion factor is what this game does well, I would say about 90% of the time. When you're fighting off mutants, when you're fighting off bloodsuckers, when you're trying to get to an artifact and there's anomalies in the way, all of that is incredible. But I also don't want anybody to get it twisted.
So it's like the human AI that's just complete garbage. It's not the rest of it.
That I brought up here, even the optimization. Even though I haven't beat the game yet, I'm still in the very early sections of the game because I've just been roaming around, just trying to get immersed in the world, not really following a storyline, but just kind of doing things at my own pace. I have been having an absolute blast with the game, and I think if anybody is a fan of Stalker, you're going to have a fantastic time. That's coming from somebody who never played the originals, don't know if this is better or worse.
I don't think you can say then if you're a fan of Stalker, you're going to like it if you didn't play the original games, because it might be completely different.
I have no idea. I just know that as a fan of FPS, a fan of open world games, RPGs, and even though I wouldn't classify this as a tried and true RPG, it does have a lot of that same formula without all of the bells and whistles.
It doesn't seem like there's like talent trees. That's exactly what I was just going to say.
Just you, your guns, your inventory, trying to complete quests, trying to loot up, and just trying to survive. And it's fucking awesome. Since the developers gave me early access to the game, I've been debating what I want to do come launch, and realistically, I think I'm just going to stream the game, start from scratch now with the day one patch, all of the other patches that we've accumulated. As of recording this part of the video, I've been working on this video for about 4 days now. There was a 130 gigabyte patch that I haven't even dived into.
The thing, like, despite all these bugs and stuff that we've talked about, I think this game, like, it's already sold 1 million copies and, like, has pretty good Steam numbers. Let me see if I can pull them up.
Yet I think that might be the day one patch, but these guys have dropped at least 4 updates throughout the last week or so, and it's actually really nice to see. It's a little bit encouraging. I'm seeing some of these issues, but patches are coming, and they're coming very, very frequently. So I want to start from scratch with the new updates, the day one patch, and just go hard. A little bit of knowledge that I had before, we can take that to the new build and just kind of see where we get. I'm very much looking forward to playing through this entire game and just seeing how the journey unfolds in a new engine with modern hardware and a new story, and a game that looks incredible, plays very, very well, and is in a setting that is right up my alley. But for me, the most exciting part of all of this is being able to see the Stalker community get fed the game that they have been waiting for so long, because I think, at least from my position, I think they're going to enjoy it, and that makes me so goddamn happy. Are you guys interested in Stalker 2? Are you going to be playing it at launch? I believe our embargo for this video is up a few hours before the launch. Let me know your thoughts on everything Stalker 2 related. I'm just happy that my playthrough yielded positive results, because if this game came out and was an absolute fucking shit show, I would be so disappointed. But alas, I'm very happy to report Stalker 2, at least so far, is a banger. My name is Big.
It's interesting though that like, this is what I mean. Like, other games have released, and I'm still trying to find this, by the way. Other games have released, and when they released, a lot of people were like, okay, there's too many bugs here. Let me try this. Like, am I just dumb? Okay, here, I found it. I don't know why that took me so long. So right now, 24-hour peak is 119,000. Players right now, 108,000. All-time peak is 119.39. So today was the 24-hour peak for it. And honestly, incredible numbers. Like, the game is doing well. So despite the bugs, the game is good enough where it is maintaining this, which honestly, as of right now, is very similar to Black Ops 6 numbers, which is pretty insane. I think Black Ops 6 is like 138K right now on Steam, which of course that does not include console, but yeah, it's an interesting one. And if you've played it, I want to hear what you're thinking of it. Have you been bugged out? Are you able to run it on your PC? Like, what have your thoughts been on this game so far? It's an interesting one. And if I have time, maybe over Christmas break, maybe we give this one a go. But yeah, let me know what you're thinking.